Cada vez que me chegas me sinto mais longe de ti. Teu pudor foi transmitido e será neutralizado. Teu pudor foi transmitido. Não importa o quanto faça, pouco importa a cor do ouro. Na corrida ao teu afeto, a medalha é sempre bronze. Sou órfão da tua ternura. Oh, ei, are, ei, oh, ei, oh, areia, oh, ei, are, ei, oh, ei. Muito me salta à vista quando chegas reta e firme. Que pouco posso fazer para te fazer mudar. Teu pudor foi transmitido e será neutralizado. Teu pudor foi transmitido. Se soubesses abraçar, de vez em quando beijar, e aos recantos imperfeitos, com menos rigor apontar, quem seria eu? Sou órfão da tua ternura. Oh, ei, are, ei, oh, ei, oh, areia, oh, ei, are, ei, oh, ei.
तुझे बिन जिया नहीं लगता मेरा तेरे बिन जीना मुश्किल तुझे बिन जिया नहीं लगता मेरे यारा तेरे बिन जीना मुश्किल तू आजा साजना तू आजा साजना तू आजा 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 सोने आजा दिल तेरा तो लेके आजा जिंदगी में खुशियां भेजो मकड़ा मकड़ा दिल मेरा आजा आजा सोने आजा दिल तेरा तो लेके आजा जिंदगी में खुशियां भेजो मकड़ा मकड़ा दिल मेरा आजा आजा
My love for you, I'll never abuse. My love for you, I'll always renew. My love for you, I'll never abuse. My love for you, I'll always renew. Sometimes I'm accused of being jealous. I get myself in trouble by seeing you're jealous. I'm strong in what I'm doing, not easily hurt by what folks are saying.
मखड़ा मखड़ा ओ मखड़ा सोनिया सोनिया ओ सोनिया सजना सजना ओ सजना कनिया तू मेरे नाम मखड़ा मखड़ा ओ मखड़ा
Good morning and welcome to the 15th Annual Statewide Summit for Bilingual Parents. My name is Joanne Clyde, and I serve as the Director of the Multilingual Department for the Illinois State Board of Education. We are so grateful for the time that you have set aside from your busy lives to attend this virtual event. I know that we all wish we could be together in person. Hopefully, though, we have managed to develop a virtual summit that uplifts, educates, and affirms you as dedicated parents and educational partners. Today, we will be providing simultaneous interpretation for all sessions, including this opening presentation. If you want to hear my comments in other languages, please do the following. Go to the Zoom menu bar that appears at the bottom of the Zoom window. Look for the globe and click Interpretation, and then select the language you want to hear, such as Spanish, Polish, Mongolian, Arabic, or French. All of today's sessions in all of the various languages will be recorded and uploaded to the Bilingual Parents Video Library on YouTube. So don't worry if there are too many sessions that you want to see today. All of these sessions will be available in the next 2 weeks. If you need any help after this first session, this Zoom room will remain open until 1 p.m. to answer your questions. You are part of an amazingly diverse group of parents. If we were in person, we could clap and cheer loudly and proudly. I am going to make some statements about some of the people here today. And if the statement is about you, please use the clap emoji to express your joy and pride. You can find this emoji on the bottom of the Zoom bar where it has emojis. There are parents here today who speak Spanish. We have parents here today who speak Arabic. We have parents here today who speak Polish. We have parents here who speak French. We even have parents here who speak Mongolian. There are parents here from Southern Illinois. There are parents here from Central Illinois. We have parents here from Northern Illinois. We have parents here from the city of Chicago. We have parents here from the suburbs. We have parents here from rural areas. There are parents here who are experiencing the Bilingual Parent Summit for the very first time. And we have parents who have been here before. There are parents here who are members of their district's Bilingual Parent Advisory Council, or BPAC. There are parents here who are part of the PTA or PTO. There may be parents here who are on their local Board of Education. And there are parents who are not part of those groups, but who might want to be. We also have administrators and teachers here today. We are all here united by the shared goal of raising bilingual, biliterate, successful children who will become leaders and change the world. We have an amazing group of speakers and sessions lined up for you today. Some of the topics include mental health, family and community engagement, supporting your child's academic achievement, powerful parenting, how you can build your child's brain, and advocating for your child at school. There are even more topics to choose from. Prepare yourselves to be challenged, excited, and inspired. At this time, I have the distinct honor and privilege to introduce Chairman Darren Riesberg, Chairman of the Illinois State Board of Education, who will share a welcome message.
Thank you, Joanne, and thanks to you, the rest of the multilingual department at the Illinois State Board of Education, and to the Illinois Resource Center for organizing the 15th annual Bilingual Parent Summit. It's great to be back after last year's hiatus due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And a huge thank you to all of the parents for taking time to join us today. Your attendance, especially on a Saturday, clearly shows your commitment to your children's education. And do you know what's the most accurate predictor of student academic achievement? I'll give you a hint. It's not socioeconomic status, ethnic or racial background, or how prestigious the school is that a child attends. The best predictor of student success is the extent to which families encourage learning at home and involve themselves in their children's education. In addition to higher grades and test scores, parent involvement makes our schools better and stronger because educating our children is a partnership. You are your children's first and best teachers. You know what they need and whether or not they're getting the right support for them to achieve their dreams. So I encourage you to use your voice to make a difference and improve your children's school. Parental involvement is a broad term that can take many forms, both inside and outside the classroom. You don't have to log hundreds of volunteer hours for your child to benefit. Even if you can only volunteer a few hours a year, every bit counts. You can help with homework, join the PTA or the Bilingual Parent Advisory Council if your school has one. Share your feedback at school board meetings, or even run for a seat on the school board. And right now, we need your voices more than ever. Many of your children have been learning remotely this school year, so you have had an unprecedented front row seat to your children's education and how the pandemic has impacted them academically and emotionally. The federal government has allocated approximately $7.8 billion, that's billion, in federal pandemic relief funding to Illinois schools. We have released at the State Board of Education a learning renewal resource guide that I encourage you to explore in preparation for engaging, because it's the perfect time to influence how your local school district will spend those federal dollars to benefit your children. That guide I mentioned suggests 12 strategies for districts to consider as they have local conversations about how to spend this funding. And the strategies include ideas like tutoring or extending the school year, expanding summer school, and forming partnership with community-based organizations to provide social emotional supports to students. The latest round of funding also includes a specific opportunity for parents to give feedback. The law requires that school districts post a plan for in-person instruction and to solicit public comment on that plan. So again, your voices matter in these decisions. Before I wrap up and wish you all a wonderful conference, I do want to share some recent advancements in our work on behalf of English learners. Last month, the State Board of Education approved our new state standards for Spanish language arts and took the first steps to developing a new standardized assessment, all in Spanish, for students in kindergarten through 8th grade. You can give feedback on these proposed standards right now. We could have the standards adopted by September. A Spanish assessment will not only make our schools and our education system more equitable, but it will give everyone a more accurate picture of how well our multilingual students are learning and how effectively our schools are meeting their needs. Another update is that families of students with disabilities can now request a translator for IEP meetings, and the district must meet that request. This will ensure that all families have the access and information they need to advocate for their children with disabilities and to partner fully and effectively with their children's teachers and schools. We're really excited about these advancements in equity for our English learners, and we will continue to fight and advocate for their success. Thank you again for joining the 15th Annual Bilingual Parent Summit. I hope you learned valuable information today that can empower you and serve you to be an advocate on behalf of your children. I'll say it again, we need you. And with that, Joanne, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Chairman Riesberg. Next, we are excited to hear from Clarisol Duque. Clarisol Duque is the Chicago Chief of Staff for U.S. Senator Richard J. Durbin. In this role, Clarisol serves constituents in northeastern Illinois, which includes Chicago and the 6 Collier County region that totals more than 8 million people. Ms. Duque.
Thank you so much. Good morning. Again, my name is Clarisol Duque, and it's an honor to be here with Illinois families representing Senator Dick Durbin, your United States Senator. I want to start by saying that I know that Illinois families have borne the brunt of this pandemic. Many of you have stayed home to slow the spread. You've transitioned to e-learning to protect your kids, their fellow classmates and teachers, and you've cared for older dependents who are among the most vulnerable to the virus. I sincerely want to thank everyone for the many sacrifices you have made for the sake of caring for your families and caring for the lives of others in your communities. I wanted to take a few minutes with you this morning to talk about President Biden's American Rescue Plan, as well as speak with you and give you an update on the progress of immigration reform in the US Senate. But I want to start by telling you that Senator Durbin supported President Biden's American Rescue Plan, which provides families with direct cash relief and increased tax benefits. Importantly, this plan has been estimated to cut child poverty in half this year. The single largest contributor to this historic reduction in child poverty is the expansion of the child tax credit. This change alone is expected to reduce child poverty by more than 40%. The new law expands the eligibility and amount of child tax credit to ensure that more families will be able to receive the help that they need. Families with children under 6 years old can now receive up to $3,600 per child, and families with children ages 6 to 17 can receive up to $3,000 per child in 2021. It also makes the credit fully refundable in 2021, meaning more low-income families can claim the full credit amount even if they do not owe any income taxes. Regular advance payments of the expanded credit will begin as soon as this July, so families don't have to wait until next year to begin receiving this credit. In Illinois, the expanded child tax credit will benefit 2.5 million children and lift 338,000 children above or closer to the poverty line. Advance payments of the expanded child tax credit will be based on the family's 2020 or 2019 tax returns. The IRS is urging families with children to file their 2020 taxes as soon as possible. The deadline to file is May 17th. So that is next Monday is the deadline to file your 2020 taxes. The IRS will provide more information, but at this time, if you're eligible, the only action you need to take to receive the advanced child tax credit is to file your 2020 taxes if you've not done so. And even if you don't normally file, you normally owe income taxes, it is important that you file with the IRS to ensure that it has the information it needs to determine your eligibility for the credit. This tax credit will provide critical relief to Illinois families with children. I now want to spend a couple of minutes speaking to you about, give you a brief update on the immigration negotiations in the Senate. You may know that Senator Durbin has a long commitment to immigration reform. But this year, with the election of President Biden, we know that on day one, President Biden took action to fortify DACA, end the discriminatory Muslim travel ban, and sent a proposal to Congress to provide a pathway to citizenship for 11 million undocumented immigrants to fix our broken immigration system. We know that in the Senate, we have to negotiate an immigration reform bill. And so as the chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Senator Durbin deeply cares about all aspects of immigration: dreamers, TPS recipients, farm workers, the essential workers, green cards for family members, and immigration workers stuck in painfully long backlogs. We're looking at all aspects of immigration. But at the moment, Senator Durbin is working to pass legislation to fix our immigration system and provide the most number of people a pathway to citizenship. Unfortunately, it's been 30 years since the last time Congress took up a comprehensive immigration reform bill. It is entirely too long. I want to focus on the bills that are currently being spoken about. We have received in the Senate side 3 bills from the U.S. House of Representatives. The House of Representatives has passed H.R. 6, which is a combination of a pathway to citizenship to young immigrants that are often considered dreamers, as well as a pathway to citizenship for those who have the TPS status. In addition, the U.S. House has passed the American Farm Worker Modernization Act. Together, we think that these would be a great start to provide a pathway for probably about 2 million dreamers, an estimated 400,000 TPS recipients, and 1 million farm workers. This would be an incredibly important building block for comprehensive immigration reform, and it is what we believe would be a great start to the approach to eventually pass immigration reform for the entire 11 million people in our country that currently do not have a pathway to citizenship. And so with that, I want to thank you. I'm happy to provide any further information, happy to pass it along to the Illinois State Board of Education. But thank you so much for having me this morning. I wish for you to have a wonderful summit. And again, thank you for all the sacrifices that you have made this past year during the pandemic.
Thank you, Ms. Duque. We appreciate your service to our children and to Illinois. Our keynote speaker today, Mr. Habeeb Quadri, is a first-generation American who grew up on the north side of Chicago and attended Chicago Public Schools. He is an educator, author, and youth activist. He has been in education for over 20 years as a teacher, principal, and superintendent of MCC Academy. In August of 2019, Mr. Quadri was awarded the National Distinguished Principal Award by the National Association of Elementary School Principals, which was then followed by both the Village of Morton Grove and Skokie, each awarding him with a Habeeb Quadri Day on October 28th and December 2nd. He is currently appointed at the Harvard University Graduate School of Education Principals Advisory Board, where he is a part-time staff member in the Professional Development Program. Mr. Quadri is also chairman of the Illinois Coalition of Nonpublic Schools, representing more than 2,000 private schools. In addition to teaching and administering in both public and private schools, Mr. Quadri has delivered over 1,000 lectures throughout the United States and several countries abroad on leadership, education, and youth. In 2006, Mr. Quadri founded High Quality Educational Consulting, an education consulting company from which he has conducted workshops for the U.S. Department of State, numerous local, national, and international schools and universities in countries around the world, including Kenya, Singapore, Pakistan, Canada, Qatar, and more. For all the work he has done in the Muslim community, he was also awarded the Lifetime Educational Achievement Award by the Islamic Society of North America. He has co-authored 5 books and written a dozen articles on youth, parenting, and education. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Mr. Habeeb Quadri.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. Bonjour, hola, marhaba, konnichiwa, and any other language. I'm kind of trying to write them all down because some of my pronunciation might not be that great. But I want to thank all of you, especially the ISBE, for giving me this opportunity, the Illinois Resource Center, the Bilingual Summit, and you parents who are taking your time to get some more information so we can build that great partnership with the schools. So all the educators, kudos for you to take your Saturday and say, you know what, I'm going to Zoom in. And I seriously don't like the Zooming. I would love to come and see the live events and the shows and the dances and the clothing and the speaking, but it is what it is. But we're going to have to go with the flow here. But, you know, and we're going to keep on praying that COVID slowly goes away. But I want to thank everyone for this opportunity. And then today I do want to focus on how important parent and school relationship is. Me being an educator, but also being a first generation student and an ESL student, right? And so you'll see my story today of how important you all are, all the stakeholders to put it together. So first and foremost, who am I? Right, so first generation American Indian Muslim. My father came in 1960 from India, Hyderabad, India, took a bus all the way to New Delhi, took a boat to England, from England took a boat all the way to New York. I know it looks like those Ellis Island stories, but it's true. And then in 1960, he took a Greyhound to Oklahoma, Stillwater, Oklahoma, with $100. And his father said, hey, you know what? You're going to go, first person to ever go to college. They sent him, not even in India did anyone go to college. So from college, they say, hey, you're not going to go to school here. We're going to send you to America. And he went to Stillwater, Oklahoma, where he realized that, hey, he couldn't go to any restaurants, hard to get a haircut, wasn't able to get a job. So after classes in the summer, he would go to Chicago so he could get some money or make a little bit of money, so that way he could pay for college. But after 1 year, he realized it was really tough in Stillwater, Oklahoma. So he went to Kansas State and got his bachelor's and master's in structural engineering. But being an immigrant in the 60s, it took him 6 years to land a job. So for at least 2 years, my mom and my sister, but I wasn't born by then, he sent them back to India until he could get things a little bit more comfortable. But they came back in 1968, and in 68, we lived in public housing for about a few years. And then from there on, you know, he got a job in the city of Chicago as a structural engineer, help with the bridges that you see now in downtown. For 30 years, he did not leave that job because he was worried that if he left that job, he might lose his job. So he just stayed where he was. So I'm trying to tell you this because I know some of those concerns sometimes when you're new, don't want to take a risk, those chances. But my father realized that he didn't take some chances, but he did take chances to make it happen, for making my life easy. And what many of you parents are doing and what you educators are doing is to bring all of us work together for the success of these kids. And I thank you being a student in the Chicago Public Schools, an ESL student from kindergarten, first grade, second grade. And by third grade, I slowly transitioned out of ESL. And I want to thank Mrs. Sony. I don't know if she's still, I was trying to get a hold of her, but God bless her. being that relationship with my mom, who was only a high school graduate, who had limited English, but she believed in education. My father believed in education, and it stressed that education. So that played such a big part of her communicating with my mom, telling her how ESL will benefit. And being proud of who you are, right? And that is so important, and being proud, because, you know, my mom's like, well, should I start not talking in my mother language? Is it better if he doesn't speak Urdu and just speak English? And she said, no, be proud of your language, speak at home your mother tongue, but at the same time, make sure there's a certain time to build on his academic and learning skills. So you want to make sure that is so important for you. And then the youth mentoring, community activism played a big part in my life, because I said, well, if some things I've learned, how do I share with others? How do I be a proponent of my community, of my ethnicity, even of my faith? And that played a big part. And then how academics, but also after school programs played a big part, which we're going to kind of go ahead and talk about. But why I'm kind of bringing up some of my background, because I want you to realize all of us should never limit our expectations of our kids. Yes, I started as an ESL student. Yes, my dad struggled in the starting. We lived in public housing. He was worried about a job. But I want you to realize some of the success is because of my teachers and all of you stakeholders. Yet for me to be an opportunity to be on the advisory board of Harvard University, I was the first Indian Muslim ever to be on their advisory board. Right? Or the idea of being on the National Distinguished Principal, I was the first Southeast Asian Muslim that ever won this award. So you'll realize you never know who that person could be. Hey, why not me? Why not you? Why not your child? Why not you as a parent be that individual? And I want us to realize that the resources that the ISBE have, and when we maximize and we build that relationship and we become advocates and work as a partnership, you could see the success. Even the chair, the Illinois Coalition Non-Public Schools has been there for 50 years. I was the first ethnic minority. Now, I'm not here to try to brag. I just want to show you guys, what parents, the teachers, the schools, districts have done to make it easy for me to have some success. And this success is because of everyone else. So when I'm sharing this, is not about me, like, oh, I'm a good guy, but it's about all of you for what you guys have done to make this so awesome. So I wanted to kind of talk about, now that you got this background, to say, hey, what are some things that sometimes we do have challenges? So I want to talk to the educators, and I want to also talk to the parents and kind of think about some of my experiences and what are some things that we could all learn from. Because the idea is, why repeat those things again? So one of the big things as an immigrant child, sometimes immigrant children can be singled out and misunderstood for a number of reasons. Now, I was a child in the 70s, and so you'll see that some of the challenges that the school I went to, it was the first time they started busing in students, the African-American students and a lot of Southeast Asian students to this specific school. So there were a lot of discrimination. Now, I want to clear this up. I'm not going to have a conversation about this. In America, I think there's a lot of beauty. There's a lot of great people. But even through that, separate racism. There's always going to be a few people like that. But sometimes, even in our own cultures and ethnicities, we might have some forms of discriminations, which could be from prejudice, right? Hostility and negative feelings held by someone about a person or a group. And that could be just through maybe watching something, and we're going to talk about that, or just from hearing about someone. Or you people might have stereotyping, right? Attributing same characteristics of all members of a group, especially stereotypes, assuming negative characteristics about a group, right? Or you might have some people who have some racial profiling and action taken for reasons, right? Of safety, security, protection that relies on stereotypes about race, color, ethnicity, ancestry, religion, or place of origin. So you might have some of these people, maybe from the way they grew up to what they read, what they watched on the news. But I've realized the greatest form of understanding to combat these discrimination is through interaction, right? The greatest form is not by reading a book about someone. It's not about just watching a documentary about someone. It's not maybe just having one speaker speak about it. But when they get to interact and have this communication and meet with each other, it's the greatest form of learning. And this is why, as you as parents, it's so important to get involved in your school district, because then they get to see you, they get to interact with you, they get to see your narrative, they get to understand what you're going through or what your needs are. And that way the school districts can help you. And when the school district, if you as teachers interact and they get to know you, and that parents get to know you, and the community centers get to know you, the administrators, if they get to know you, then they're going to feel more comfortable to be a part of your school. It has to go both ways. When we get along and when you get to talk and when you go and make that first step, it changes the game. And it's so important to do that. Because why? There are things that when we first come in is going to make us stand out. In the 70s, clothing made me stand out, especially my mom, who used to walk me on the block with her sari or with her scarf. And sometimes my dad would wear a suit, but then sometimes he would wear his Indian garments or a long traditional Arabic garment. I'm like, good Lord. And the kids would be like, his dad is wearing a dress. I'm like, good Lord, Dad. Right? And I'm like, Ma, why are you wearing this? Right? Because those conversations that we have, right? Because my mom would have me, and then sometimes, and I would be like, I'm a cowboy. Then sometimes I wear my suit. Then sometimes my Indian outfit. Then sometimes my religious outfit. And then some, so you had to be proud of it. But, when you're young, you're like, oh my God, why me? Because I was unique. But it's so important for us to realize as schools that sometimes that uniqueness is something we could celebrate. Right? And it's so important as educators, so the educators who are watching this, to know your community, to see who is coming in. What do we know? What should we do? What can we make things different? Even though now I'm in a private school of one faith-based, but even in my school, we have 46 different countries represented. My staff is made up of more than 25 different countries. Even though it's a Muslim school, I left up Chicago public schools and Detroit public schools, but even in my same racial faith-based school, there is 46 different countries. So there are different personalities, different flavors, and so on and so forth. So understanding and making sure those are representative. And so what are some things we could do? I'm going to talk about at the end, but I just wanted to go ahead and kind of share some of these things. Language and accent is going to be very important. And parents, you need to be proud of our language, and we're going to learn. And when the programs that you have in your school districts to learn English, as my mom slowly began to do, is very important to understand, and to have that. But I realized educators, that was a challenge. My mom, with her accents, kids used to laugh. And sometimes I didn't want my mom to come and read a book in front of the whole class because of that. But that's because when I was young, but until we start making them feel it's okay. And I started seeing other kids' parents and said, wait a minute, they got some different accents too. It makes you feel more comfortable. And then when you had shows like, Simpsons and Apu, and like your mom speaks like Apu, those were those challenges that we had. And so that's why it's so important as educators to understand what could be some of the things that are happening on the recess. That could be comments or discussions. And how do we combat that? How do we expose kids to make sure that respect and understand how all these immigrants that came have made America who they are? What made America great was all these individuals coming together to making the success of of this country. So that became number two. And again, I'm just kind of giving you a few small things to kind of think about that played a big part. Another factor was foods. Right? That's why I miss, if we had this live right here, how many different foods I would have been able to eat, and then ISB would have paid for it. I'd have been like, what? but now I'm not going to be able to because of, Zoom and COVID. But what I want us to realize, foods played a big part. But when I was young, Indian spices were not kind of maybe something that everyone was very familiar with. And so sometimes when I opened up the bag, people would be like, whoa, what is that chicken? Why does it look red? Are you eating blood? I'm like, no, I'm not. But those were things. And I remember once a teacher said, can I take a piece? And said, man, this food tastes so good. Wow, I love it. And that changed my game. And she said in front of all the other kids and said, this food is great. Is there an Indian restaurant I could go to try this? This is amazing. And when I found out about clothing, accent, and culture, what changed the game was the international night. I think after a few years, one of the teachers said we should do something like that. And when I started seeing people from China, other countries have different outfits, from Poland, Polish, all these, then I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not the only one who has this odd man out, different kind of outfits. And that played such an amazing thing. And so helping, celebrating that also as a school, and you as teachers, and understanding that and bringing that out, and as parents, kind of understanding how important your things are. So when you could share some of your concerns and stuff that has happened, that goes a long way. So the manners and customs, right? These are things when they'll have a better understanding when you talk about your culture, when you come in and have conversations with the schools and being a resource for them, just like how the school is a resource for you, for the bilingual tax credit information about the state, you could be a resource about your culture, your community, your faith. And when they have a better understanding of who you are, it's only going to benefit. And do not feel uncomfortable. Many schools are going to be there. And suppose that one person you had that interaction maybe wasn't that great, don't stop there. There are going to be other individuals, other teachers there, other administrators there, other parents who might have that same experience as you, and they maybe were feeling uncomfortable. So you just sometimes have to take that first step. And when you take that step, I guarantee you, you're not just benefiting your child, but future kids, generations before. And that's what I want you guys to realize, how important that you knowing being proud of your culture and community, and talking to the schools and having an interaction. And there's going to be give and take, because you have to also see it from the school's perspective. But what I want you to all realize, it plays a big part. Now, why is this? Because as our kids watch media and stuff, there are going to be these token characters. There are going to be some demeaning stereotypes about ethnicities. And we've also, we have to be very careful. And we maybe even had sometimes even people at leadership roles who have said stuff that wasn't really proper. But I want us to realize the more that we get involved and the more we start sharing our narratives and not letting media share our narratives, we could go a long way. And so that's why it's so important. So you'll see that even in the past, they had shows that maybe were very derogatory about some specific ethnic groups. And so that is why it's important that me, even as an educator, from writing articles or talking to communities or doing diversity training at schools, is for parents and teachers to understand that there are going to be, and sometimes stuff that happens on the news can affect your child. In the 90s, I remember when Persian Gulf War went, I used to play sports in a lot of places I went because I was like the first Indian kid, star basketball, player, captain. And I remember going to school where they started chanting USA when I was scoring, just to kind of get on my nerves. So there are these moments, what happens on the news plays a big part, and that could be sad. So that's why as educators, administrators, we need to be familiar with that, what's going on in the world and how maybe that could affect our kids. Or as parents, if you notice that this is affecting your community, to share with the schools and say, hey, this might be going on with some of the kids, heads up on this, or going what's there. Could be a faith-based thing, could be a cultural aspect, or could be something that's going on in the world that could affect your kids. Keep these things in mind. And the more we build those relationships, the more it is. And don't worry, because we have to finish at 45. I'm finishing up in these next few minutes. Just like we have refugees and their traumas and stories, we need to make that support. And many of us sometimes have our own cultural centers. So make sure those cultural centers have relationships with your school districts and plays a big part. And lastly, our faith. Faith is very important to us. And sometimes we might have some practices. So make sure that you go ahead and share those with them. And what I want to go ahead and bring up is how you as individuals, teachers, you could empathize, you could connect, you could support these students, you could inspire, and you could guide. School districts, you could also do the same. So it's so important that, because some teachers have helped me become more confident. And when that plays a big part, and when someone buys in and says, well, I'll help you, I'll connect you to the right person, you don't know how, this doesn't change one person. it could change the whole generation for that family. So it's so important to do that. The second part I want us to realize as I finish up in these next 3 minutes is involvement in sports, clubs, and activities. After school clubs, parents, I know sometimes you're like, well, I don't know about this, but you have to realize this is academics, but if you want kids to be successful, that sense of belonging is important. And when sports played a big part for me to be confident who I was as my own culture, because sports gave me the playing field. In the starting, I felt like, okay, my academics has to learn English better. But as I got my academics together, but that sports, being part of like chess club, student government, whatever it is, make sure your kids get involved. That will go a long way. Third, family community times. If your youth center or programming, international night, if there's a specific holiday, stuff like that, be the resource for the school, parents. And when you could do that, and that goes a long way, it plays a part. Because I'm trying to show you from my experience how all these things as a young kid I was going through, but if it wasn't for those teachers advocating, or my mom advocating for me, or my community stepping in because maybe if my mom or dad were feeling uncomfortable, that played a big part. So what this resource does is bringing people together, the Illinois Resource Center, the bilingual program, may God bless all of you for working together and making sure the success of our kids for the future generations. And even now, all of us take steps, and it's not about just your kid, but it's all of our kids, because we're one community, one nation, and we're gonna hopefully come together. So I wanna thank all of you for this great opportunity, and overall environment supportive of diversity is huge, and we could all take that steps. Don't let others do it. Let all of us take our steps and being part of that change. And when we have that part of change, it could go a long way. So to the ISBE, Illinois Resource Center, to the Bilingual Summit, to all the parents, and to all the administrators. And the ones I have to thank right now are the interpreters. So I apologize if I went too fast, but thank you, interpreters, in conveying my message to the public. You guys are awesome. Keep up the great work, and let's all work together, and let's have a great summer and next school year. Thank you again. God bless.
Thank you very much, Mr. Quadri. Your message was amazing. I've been watching chat, and there's so many positive comments in multiple languages about how your comments have inspired our parents.
Great.
So, ladies and gentlemen, there is the same document that had the link to get into this session, has links for the next sessions. If you need technical assistance, this room will stay open until 1 o'clock with people who can help you to get where you need to go. Thank you so much, Mr. Quadri. Thank you so much, Chairman Riesberg and Marisol Duque, for your words. Have a wonderful, wonderful summit. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Make sure that